May hapon ka natong tanan, magandang hapon sa inyo lahat. Maradyaw na hapon sa inyo horot. And karabdamo gid sa ilong gusubong. So good afternoon, may hapon. In English, good afternoon ladies and gentlemen. Ladies who are gentlemen. And my particular favorite, for obvious reasons, the gentlemen who are ladies. My name is Jude, and over the weekend, I was actually introduced, at least the idea of him, to Guillaume Neri. He is a French world champion for free diving. It's getting a lot of attention, free diving now. So what this generation, us Gen Edgers, do when we're introduced to a certain person, not yet IRL, in real life. I'll meet him next week. So I stalked him on social media, right? So I looked at his videos, and he's hot. He's French. Need I say more? So I saw a TEDx video of him, and he introduced an idea that really blew my mind, and I'm totally going to steal it this afternoon. He explained what he does, free diving, as a journey between two breaths. And I was like, The first breath, of course, is what you take in before you dive as deep as you can, and you challenge the limits of human anatomy and human capacity. And the second one is when you go up, break the surface, and you breathe that air, and you're thankful that you're alive. And I realized that travel is exactly like that. It is the journey between two thoughts. The first thought is, let's go somewhere. Everyone gets that thought, right? Let's go somewhere. Let's go to Cebu. Let's go to Bali. Let's go to Baguio. Let's go explore Bacolod. But not a lot of people go past the first thought. The second one, and I assure you, it's not going to feel like anything now when I tell you this, but after 5 days of traveling all over the Philippines, you will want to feel this second thought. It is the thought of I am home. You don't feel it now because you're all raring to go. But after 5 days, you will understand this incomparable feeling that you are home. So this afternoon, allow me to take you on a journey between those two thoughts. This is my personal journey between those two thoughts. The reason why you've never heard of me is because for a very long time, I call this, by the way, Walk This Way. It is Travel Itinerary Planning 101. And the reason why you've never heard of me is because for a decade or more, I've always been a byline. If you're a writer, you would know what a byline is, right? In the vicinity of your article, they write, by Jude Bacalso. That's a byline. But not a lot of people read that. They don't care about the byline. They care about the images, they care about the story, but they don't care about the byline. So for 15 years, I've been invisible. My stories have been out there, but I've always been just a byline. I write for Products of the Inquirer. This is one of them, a spread I do for Cebu Daily News. I'm lifestyle editor there. It was on the 20th anniversary of Cebu Pacific Air, showing their new uniforms. This, by the way, was born from a lunch that I had with Candice in Cebu. And she goes, we're celebrating the 20th year of Cebu Pacific Air. They wanted to change the uniforms. I said, go. And she says, can we have a Cebuano designer do it? And I was so very happy for that. So I gathered my 5 friends who were designers, flew them to Manila, and eventually June Nascario, who's a Cebuano, produced these uniforms that you see now, and we're responsible for that yellow that you're wearing. I also write for Travel Now magazine, so I'm very old school. I don't have a blog. I only have a micro-blogging site, which is Instagram. So people always ask me, what? You don't have a blog? No. I do write for magazines and mainstream media, so I'm old school like that, although I'm Gen Edge like you. I'm also... I'm wondering, if you take a look at this photograph, that's me, by the way. Can you judge what I took up in university based on that photograph? Just throw it out. What do you think I took up in university? I graduated with a degree in communication. A lot would say that, yeah. Feeling mo, no? College of Nursing, yes. Di ba yan ang nurse mo? Blood pressure up, baby. I actually took up, I'm a major in entomological genetics, so molecular biology. I know I'm a secret nerd. with a 24-inch waistline. The reason why I'm telling you all of this is not a vanity. There's a reason to it. Like I said, who you are is how you travel. And all our travels is informed by our own personal interest. Who are we kidding, right? It's always your own personal interest. It is fueled by the need to taste, feel, experience, touch things that writers like me make you want to try for yourself. And we're lucky enough to have done that before. But with the advent of the internet and bloggers and vloggers coming out, it is now exponentially blowing up. Everyone can be a content provider. Every one of you will become a content provider after this, when you become ambassadors of fun for Cebu Pacific Air. Your worldview is actually formed very early. In my case, my worldview, which informs all of my travel, who I am, was because of this one big word that I flashed earlier. And it started out in biology class, probably around the same age that you were in basic biology. This one, I want that to sink in first. Heterogeneity. Heterogeneity. What does that mean? In basic biology, it was described as the quality or state of being diverse in character or content. To put it simply, it is the state by which every single one of you is different from each other. And that is a biological truth. It's important to be different from each other and to learn to understand that because, allow me to illustrate. Do you remember this from university? Do you know what that is? Do you remember what a Petri dish is? Okay, you have it in biology, right? That's a Petri dish with agar-agar solution with a colony of molds on top of it. My biology professor came out with this, showed it to us. Every single mold is alive. She took out a dropper with acid, which is corrosive, right? And she put a single drop of it in the entire colony. After a few seconds, the colony turned black. And then after a few more seconds than that, it turned a dull gray. Every single organism, every single one of the molds had died, except for a tiny pinprick that remained alive because they were different. In today's parlance, you know the X-Men, right? You would call them the mutants. Mutation. Mutation is really the fuel by which we evolve. If every single one of us were the same, a single catastrophe would wipe us out, just like the acid. But if there was one, especially in this species, that formed a covering that was resistant to the acid, they could propagate the next species. So you have to be different from each other in order to evolve, in order to become better. And when I understood that, it gave me a total respect for how this has been the thread that everyone has been saying. Candace started out this afternoon by saying it, that when you travel, at some point, you search for the differences. That's what I do. When I travel, especially out of the country or within or among the regions of the Philippines, you search for how different we are. And the next few days, you have to go look for that. But when you come home on that second thought, you realize how truly similar everyone is. And there's that similar thread that goes through it. So that informed everything that I know about travel. Speaking of different, I went to Taiwan a few weeks ago, and it's not Taipei 101. I went out to the south. If you ever get to book a piece of fare to Taiwan, I suggest you go down south and look for the Amis. The Amis are an indigenous people. This is their Pataan wetlands, which is their home. And what amazed me was, oh Kyle, you're gonna love this. The Amis are actually genetically closest related to the Filipinos. Geographically, because they're just on top of us. Taiwan's just 2 hours away from us. And their southern portion is closest to our northern portion. Kyle, take a look at what the Amis do. They actually braid headbands with 3 different colors that represent mother, father, and the earth. So they braid it very quickly and give it to you, festoon it with these leaves, and we danced around, very Filipino. And when I talk about how different things are, but then how similar we also are, I tried out their cooking. The implements of cooking for the Amis are basically the same as the Filipinos. They fashion it from leaves. They put out a hollow bamboo, put in raw fish, ginger slices, and this is what their kitchen looks like. What is amazing is this woman is scooping volcanic rocks from the hearth, from the fire. She takes it out, puts it in a scooper, dips it very quickly into hot water to wash off the soot, and she puts the stones directly into the bamboo. So it cooks the fish inside with the kangkong, same elements as the Filipino cooking. So the fish is actually turned into a soup without ever touching a fire. And I thought that was amazing. Who would have thought of that? The Amis did, the Filipinos did not. And it always amazes me how similar the implements are, but how differently we look at things. And you should get that appreciation whenever you go. Because you take a look at a dish and like, oh, okay, we have that at home, but it isn't cooked the same way as this. That always amazes me. If you've ever been to Dumaguete, so I always tell people that travel before the internet was a series of asking the right questions, getting the wrong answers, and enjoying it anyway, right? Before the internet, ask questions, oh, they gave us the wrong answer, but you also have to phrase your questions correctly. For example, when you go up to someone, if you will be going to a different region other than yours, when you ask them, saan po pinakamasarap na almusal dito? They take a good look first at your sponsored outfits and your Cebu Pacific and blazoned logo, and they say, sa Jollibee, or some air-conditioned area. But if you ask them instead, saan po kayo nag-aalmusal? What happened to me in Dumaguete is led me to the market, their palengke, which as early as 4 a.m., stalls upon stalls sell puto, done Bisaya style. It's in triangular banana leaves, sticky rice, right? Sticky rice. And it's covered with sikwate or chocolate, native chocolate. What's also interesting is that the lady right next to me said, you better try this one as well. It is served with the sari-sari on the right. The sari-sari is interesting because it's not just chocolate. It's a combination of their own version of 3-in-1. It's chocolate, equal parts milk, and equal parts coffee, and only in Dumaguete. It's even better if they bring you to their homes. Because if you ask them, saan po kayo nag-almusal? Daling kita sa bahay ko, I'll bring you to my house. That's even better, right? Because you get to experience the true local flavor when they welcome you into their home. So if you do get this opportunity, please grab onto it and do it. Go to their homes, visit them. Now, just very generally, I will break down the different interests of people, and I'm going to ask you what your interests are because I might have missed out on it. First one, obviously, with this girth, would be food, right? And for example, okay, I want to show you this photograph, also in Taiwan. Can you tell me what kind of fish that is? Oh, how did you know that? Ay, andaya, taga Cayanyoro ka, di ba? Pachada. Lamira ka, ha? Nakauna gidain ka. I wouldn't have known that it was bangus because of the way they cut it, right? And again, differences and similarities. Yes, we eat bangus, and then everyone's like, so where did the rest of the fish go? Di ba? Saan napunta the rest of the fish? So differences and similarities. If it wasn't for the right questions that I asked, I wouldn't have been led as well to the 5th floor of an abandoned building in the middle of Cebu's Mandaue district, where you have to climb 5 flights of stairs to enjoy a vegan meal like this. It's a Nourish Bowl. So it's a gorgeous place. Take a look at that. It's on the 5th floor. You have to climb because there's no elevator. It's an abandoned building. But right on top of the rooftop, this woman actually started a Whole Foods movement and a slow cooking movement, which she called Kairos. It's amazing. She's not open to the public, but you have to call her up because she serves a minimum of 10 people. So just a minimum of 10 people, and she'll come up for food for you. It's not just these amazing discoveries, it's also the simple ones. Whenever I travel, I go to a McDonald's or an international chain because they always have some unique offering only in that country, right? So when I was in Taiwan, I tried this shrimp burger, which was also very good. If you're allergic to it, bring your medicine, but try out food that is only available in that country. I love doing that, the fast foods. So there's always discovery anywhere you are. One of my favorite stops, I don't know if Mitch knows this, but his name is Bossing, and he is inside Siliman campus. And it took one local to tell me, oh, you gotta try Bossing. Bossing's fishball. May fishball naman kami sa bahay namin. Or in Cebu, may fishball naman kami. Oh, but you've never tried fishball like this. Because Bossing has lined up in front of him, if you notice, sauces numbered from 1 to 5 in order of their spiciness, their strength. So it becomes a little challenge for people like, oh, okay, let's see if you go straight for the number 5, or you start from 1 and move your way up. So these are little food discoveries that I love and I appreciate because I keep my ear on the ground, ask people the right question. Because when you tell them, saan po pinakamasarap dito? There's a level of pride. You're like challenging them. Saan pinakamasarap dito? And sometimes people get offended by that. Ah, ganon. Pinakamasarap, Jollibee. Si aircon doon, di ba? Locals have a different idea of what is good or what is right for you than you, right? So, but do the adventure anyway and enjoy it, even if you get the wrong answers. That's my point. The second one, apart from food, is of course adventure. I was in Bali and I tried surfing for the very first time. It's crazy because Bali's waves are killer waves. You know, killer waves. And you can really imagine how someone can die and, no, seriously, how someone can die. Kumar does rafting. That's when I realized, just very close to shore, how turbulent waters really can wash you up and down, and you don't have any sense of direction. You don't know when you're coming up for air. That's why next week when I meet Guillaume, I'm going to ask him to teach me how to hold my breath. That's always a good excuse, right? Guillaume, I almost died in Bali. I need at least 3 minutes of air in me. One of my favorite stories, not for Smile, because I started out with the other magazine, with the other airline, by the way. Do you see that little dot up there? That's me. And that is the Wahig River down below. I've done almost all of the zip lines in this country because I volunteered for a travel show just so I could travel for free. With Kyle's, Kyle, the company that you work for now, I applied for them. You work with now. I applied as a writer for a travel show just so I could go around the country for free. And that's when I got to try all of the zip lines. This is one of my favorites from my hometown of Bohol. My mother is from Bohol. So this is in Danao, which is inland. That's where the Gohoy lived, an 85-year revolution. During that time, the longest zip line at 0.5 kilometer. Now it's been surpassed. But this one is right on top, it's on top of a mountain. So if you fall, hindi ka lang bali-bali, patay ka talaga. And I really wanted that challenge. Remember, paano ang mangko? Hindi ko dito sa bali-bali ko, dito ko sa mamatay ko. I hope you understood that or translated to someone. Ayokong alanganin. Translate ko rin. Ayoko nang alanganin. Ayoko pag nahulog ko, bali-bali ako. Gusto ko patay. This is for that magazine. I have a sense of adventure. Will said earlier that fear motivates you. The opposite is true for me because I do not have fear at all. Even if I would make a perfect candidate for fear factor because I'd like, okay. Balut? Oh, I eat that for breakfast. You know, insects? Yeah, I bite their heads off. I'm an entomological major. So we literally did that in university, bite their heads off and study them. One of my interests as a scientist, of course, is nature and science. And tilapia, I discovered here, is not only valuable as food in Taiwan, but the bigger business was from the side product of the scales. Kasi yung scales niya tinatanggal and it's thrown away, it was bought for many years by Japanese. And the owners of the farms were wondering, I wonder what the Japanese know that they're buying all of our scales. Turns out, it is a rich source of collagen. And they even now experiment as corneal transplants from the collagen that is taken from the scales of the tilapia. And I thought that was just amazing how they discover these things and celebrate it. So when you discover these things, please do celebrate science as well. Another area that everyone is interested about is history, art, and music. If you're ever in Cebu, and I beg you, every last Friday of May. Remember that, every last Friday of May, we have a thing going called Gabi sa Kabilin, Night of Heritage. Around 30 museums in the entire of Cebu are open from 6 p.m. till midnight. There's a bus ride that takes you from one to another. You only pay 150 pesos to enter all of them. There's food, there's dances, there's educational tours. 37 museums to teach you all about Cebu. So every last Friday of May, we do that. It's one night a year. And one of my favorite stops is the Jesuit House of 1730. When I was traveling, that's not it. That's the side street behind it. Because I always like, okay, so I like doing mainstream stories, but I also like the flip side, the B side. They're the more interesting ones, right? Whenever people meet me and like, oh, I've heard of you. I hope only the bad things because the good things are boring, right? That's my standard reply. So I'm going to tell you a bad thing about the Jesuit House of 1730. The rest of the world knows it as the oldest dated house in the country, which was discovered inside a working warehouse. Until now, it's inside a warehouse. And I thought that was mind-blowing, that how could something that was built in the 1730s, and it's the oldest dated house in the country, have escaped everyone's attention until now? It was discovered inside a warehouse. What's even more interesting is at the back of the building, there was a story of the murder of 7 priests inside. And the Filipino sacristan who was accused of it ran out the house. And until now, on this back street, they say that he carved a crucifix to spite them with a knife that he stabbed the priest with. And until this very day, the crucifix is there, if you have the time to go look for it, over there on one side. Just carved into the stone. So very quickly, my very first team in One for Fun was Mara. Mara's here, joining us as one of the staff. Mara was together with Liang and Julia. They were my very first team in 2014 when they introduced coaches into the mix. And they actually went to Cagayan de Oro and they asked me, Coach, what's there to do that's different in Cagayan de Oro? I told them that there was a pottery shop that you could actually do pottery in. Little did I know that they only made us do that because I was from the press when I went there. So when Mara and the rest of the girls were in Cagayan de Oro, they were told, no, we don't open it to the public, but we sell our pottery. And they're like, oh, this will make a better story for One for Fun. So they charmed the owner. They were able to go in and do their own pottery. So you got to rely on your charm as well. Just going through them, find a queue and get on it. If I did, whenever I travel, sometimes I don't research. I just find there's a long line. I get on it, whatever it is. There's always surprising at the end of it. So at one line that I got on in Japan, I was able to buy. I did not know what it was, so I was lined up. And then when I got inside the store, it was an antique store. And I got a beautiful Frank Miller watch, which is probably like, what, $1,500 real value. I only got it for 1,000 pesos. And some jewelry that I also like, but you have to ukay-ukay. So I'll get on a line, get on a queue, and discover whatever it is at the end of it. Number 2, rumors always lead to something interesting. You hear these things. Now, sabi na kaibigan ko, okay, my friend Bella and I were traveling through Southern Luzon, and she says, oh, may mansion daw ang mga Marcos dyan sa taas. So we listened to the rumor, we asked around, it led us to this beautiful place that, indeed, when I peeked in, had portraits of the former first couple inside. It was a mansion that was owned by them, but now it looks like this, with the reality of it. Ask the cab, tricycle, tuk-tuk, habal-habal, bus, bangka, MRT driver. Always ask a local. That's a recurring theme that we always say. In Taiwan, in their Ludong market, which is the second largest in the country, there was this little corner that we only learned from a local. So it's not within the center of the market. Over at they serve taho, but it's served differently because it's with crushed ice. So that was very refreshing. We don't do that. So they also had arnibal and crushed ice. I thought that was very unique. You have to ask, so what's good here? Not so what's good here. You have to ask, where do you go for? Like I explained earlier, right? And it leads you to, this one is the oldest bar in Japan that I went to because I asked the local, where do you go for a drink? And it led me to the oldest bar in Tokyo, which was open since 1880. So it's these discoveries that I appreciate. And lastly, use the native tongue. A few, oh, this one is the native tongue that I was introduced to. his name is Viet, and he won the first Vietnamese Big Brother. And on the shores of Malaysia, where I first met him, he taught me to curse in 5 different levels in Vietnamese. So when you use the native tongue, and you get an immediate reaction from the locals. They appreciate it. Kyle does that all the time. Ayos! And all that, and it always gets a reaction from people. The last one I did not include it in our visual is always be open to the kindness of strangers. Our generation is already hardened by judgment, but kindness still abounds, believe me. And when I was in Japan, people would, because they could not speak to you in English, when you ask them for directions, it would actually bring you to the place. They would walk away and turn around to check if you did go inside to that restaurant. They're amazing that way. The thing is, if you cannot find a kind person, then be that kind person when you travel. So always pay it forward. Lastly, I want to leave you with this thought. I don't know who it is attributed to because so many people have said it and claimed to it, but I first heard it from a woman who's a concert pianist in Cebu. Her name is Ingrid Sala Santa Maria. And she says, when I went into the foundation, she works for a foundation that develops art for the impoverished. So she told me, Jude, you always have to leave people better than you first met them. And I hope that when you go out of this room and do your adventures, I hope that I've left you better. We've all left you better than when we first met you. So daghang salamat.